Hey everybody, welcome to Empty Bottle Sports. Corey here with Danny and Zane. As always, we are fresh on the recovery train after our weekend in Indianapolis at the tournament. Danny, how are you and what are you drinking or not drinking?
No, we are sticking to water this week, that's for sure. Indianapolis was awesome. We saw some great games, had a good time with the boys, watched some other games, and the other round of 32 and opening round games. It was awesome. So very successful weekend, but definitely water.
Awesome. Zane, how about yourself?
Yeah, had a good time. Um, no, I actually don't have anything to drink in front of me right now. No waters, no nothing. Um, yep, thriving over here though.
CG is fasting but alive. For the record, I am drinking Diet Pepsi because I am also attempting to resurrect myself. We'll get into the Indy trip a little bit here, but first we're gonna start off talking about the games that we saw. The games that we got to see were actually quite interesting. We got Purdue and Grambling, which was kind of cool. Purdue being kind of the that was the home team for the region we were in, being in Indianapolis. Danny, what were your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, Purdue fans showed out. I mean, it was only like 40-minute drive from from their campus, so not totally unexpected, but I mean, they filled out Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and Grambling State kind of kept it within reach probably the first 25 minutes of the game, and then Purdue just stepped on the gas and it was over. But it was an awesome environment. I completely understand how Purdue is a Final Four caliber team.
Yeah, it was quite something. Yeah, they stepped on the gas and Grambling State's necks. ZG, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it definitely made it more fun that it was Purdue. Even though the game wasn't that close, you had, big crowd, a lot of energy. Uh, well, I had a good time. You could tell the second game, it really just cleared out during the second game. And that could have been partially because it was so late. I kind of wish the Eastern time games maybe they move them up next year. I think that final game ended at 1:30 in the morning or something like that. So, but yeah, I enjoyed. Um, the arena was really nice. First time at Cambridge Fieldhouse in Indy, so that was really awesome. And then the Purdue game. Uh, Purdue is on a on a mission. They were not going to get upset again as the one seed. So like Danny said, Grambling hung around, but second half it was all business.
Yeah, it was something to see. I had never been to Gainbridge, but I tell you what, I'm looking forward to going back someday. I definitely will be back. Pretty cool venue. Really really great for the tournament. In all honesty, the setup was nice. I It was kind of funny to see Grambling kind of stick around, and I had made the joke on my Snap story that when I believe the words I used was when Grambling State upsets them, I was going to streak. Uh, Obviously, all in jest, if nothing else, because of the hike down the stairs to get to the court I'd have been gassed before I got there. But yeah, it was really never in question that my clothes were going to get to stay on because Grambling didn't come out of the second into the second half awake, and Purdue, well, they never even blinked. They just smashed right on through. Um, the second game we got to see was the Utah State and TCU game. Obviously, now we all know Utah State came out of that one victorious. It was kind of cool, fellas. I don't know what your take on it was, but it was cool to see the sections that they had kind of roped off for each individual team's fan bases. The one I noticed in particular was TCU fans seem to have actually somehow shown up decently to Indianapolis. So that was kind of cool, but I didn't happen to even see where the Utah State one was, but it's a little easier to see the TCU faithful in their bright purple. But yeah, did you guys have any thoughts on that? On the late game, as Zane put it, it was rather late. Maybe they should move that up.
Yeah, their fans showed out pretty well. In Utah State, there was like they were in opposite corners of the stadium, so you could hear them chanting back and forth, depending on how the game was going. And it was much more enjoyable game from just a basketball standpoint, just because of like it was just so much more competitive until Utah State pulled away at the end in the last 5 or 10 minutes or so. But it was a great game for the most part, and it wasn't like the Purdue game where it was just 99% Purdue fans, and then the rest Scrambling State fans. Like it was pretty even TCU and Utah State. So I thought it was a better matchup.
Agreed. CG?
Yeah, it was a good game. Utah State was playing some sort of variation of a 3-2. They were double teaming the ball almost every time. They'd leave a TCU guy open to shoot. They're just daring TCU to shoot, and they hung with him for the first half. Eventually, the shots weren't falling in the second half, so that was a very unique style of defense I had never seen. But Danny's right. The game was much more competitive. It was fun to watch. We had pretty good seats up in the 200s. You could tell the 200s were packed. I don't think anybody really wanted to overpay for the 100 level seats, so 200s was a great atmosphere. It was fun to be at.
Yeah, we had a just a whole gaggle of very enthusiastic Purdue fans behind us. Those ladies were rowdy and ready, and they were letting us know too, which was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think, is aware at this point that I was pretty heavily pulling for Grambling. Pretty well aware that they weren't probably going to even put up a fight, but definitely was rooting against Purdue. And Purdue fans should probably be thankful because that seems to be the kiss of death for any team is when I root for them. So, yeah, but it was quite something to see those teams play. Let's maybe get into some of the other tournament happenings. I think we should talk about the least surprising upsets thus far in the tournament. Zane, I'll toss it your way.
Yeah, for me it was 11-6. Oregon taking down South Carolina was not that surprising. Oregon had played really well back half of the year. They went on a great won their final Pac-12 championship, the League of Champions. Went on a pretty crazy run, beating Arizona in that run, and then beating Colorado to win the Pac-12 championship. So they were coming in really hot. Played a great game, beat South Carolina. That to me was no surprise.
Yeah, I would agree. I also had Oregon as my least surprising upset. I had that one picked in both of my brackets and kind of double circled that one, underlined it, and highlighted, thinking this is to me that was just the easiest one. There were a couple that I had gone back and forth on, and some that I thought were pretty possible, and they ended up being pretty close too. Just for the sake of the fun of having another one thrown out there, Duquesne, I think was fairly unsurprising. I think BYU was ripe for the picking as another 11-6 situation there. And also their name, we had a ton of fun with that one at the bars this weekend. I mean, moving around letters to adding letters didn't even make sense of the names we came up with them. Some of them were not exactly safe for the workplace, probably, or anywhere for that matter. But Danny, did you have any upsets that you wanted to touch on?
I'll go with, and the more I think about it, it actually makes more sense. I'm going with Yale and Auburn. I've been in love with the long athletic teams that are just like NBA G League teams with how they look when they play basketball. I've been in love with the Florida States, the Texases of the world, and I was like, man, Auburn this past few years is long and athletic and can guard 1 through 5. But then when you actually make them try to play basketball and not just be athletes, they bow out in the tournament pretty early on. They can't, they lack the fundamentals. And here we are again, me just being on the absolute bandwagon for one of these long and athletic teams, and then it bites me in the ass every single time. So I had them going far, but then it does not surprise me that they ended up losing.
Yeah, well, it seemed to work out in your favor considering the absolute shellacking that Illinois put on Duquesne or whoever they were.
That was that was a beatdown.
I wish some of you guys could have seen how excited Danny was at the bar.
Oh,
for
I
that.
was so
Illinois
hyped.
jersey and all.
So hyped.
All right. Let's get away from the Duquesne slander here, and let's talk about who's your standout player in the tournament so far, Danny.
I'm gonna go with Oregon. I forget his name honestly off the top of my head, but Oregon, just because of the shootouts they've been in the past 2 rounds here, And I know they had a tough loss with like Creighton and everything, and it helps having overtime. But Kuznard, that's what his name is. Kuznard on Oregon, and he's just gone off. I think in the first 2 rounds he scored 78 points, I think, which is just absolutely insane. So I'm going to go with Kuznard. Obviously he's out, so he can't contribute more to that. But I just thought that was just classic Pac-12, just air raid offense type stuff. It was awesome.
100%. ZG, who do you have for this one?
Yeah, I don't know if I have watched enough games to pick out one singular player, but for me, the two standout teams are UNC taking care of business, not leaving a single doubt, and then Duke. And I think it kind of tells you, hey, maybe Kentucky needs to move off of Calipari, right? Both programs move off of their legend, UNC and Duke. They're both back in the tournament. They're both winning. They're both getting through the first weekend. That's always right. You're kind of just kind of have to survive. You always have to survive the first weekend. Um, but both those programs still going strong. So I think Kentucky may have to make a move sooner rather than later if they want to keep pace.
Interesting. Let's stick with what's that?
Hell of a buyout.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's stick with that for a second because now that's got me thinking. uh, Along that logic, is it time for Michigan State to look at moving on from Izzo? Exit from the tourney. They haven't been at that level of
I
like
mean,
that championship winning success. It's been longer than it's been for Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I
By a
I
lot,
think
actually.
I think they lost to a credible. Obviously, they lost to UNC, so that's a credible loss. But I think there's a clear ceiling, and we joke. I think we joked about it this weekend. Tom Izzo in the tournament is like playoff Rondo, right? He can get you. He can get you through the first round, but there's only so far that Rajon Rondo can take you on a championship run. So I I I wouldn't disagree with that either.
The lights shine too bright for old Izzo.
He's just
Well,
not. He doesn't utilize the transfer portal like more of these successful coaches do. And Calipari and Izzo are the same way. They're relying on freshman recruits, which is fine. And Izzo is able to keep them around for 4 years, but then not all of your freshmen are gonna turn out to be good seniors and juniors. Some just won't be good enough to be playing as your starter on a Big Ten championship caliber team, right? They might be good enough for a Big Ten, but if you're trying to compete in the top end of the conference and let alone nationally, sometimes they're just not always going to work out, and you need the transfer portal to supplement that.
yeah,
Not to be a homer, but like Illinois, like Brad Underwood kind of like realized, some of these guys, weren't gonna, pan out as juniors and seniors. Sometimes players just like to leave because they see the grass is green on the other side. You just have to supplement with the transfer portal. It's just the modern college basketball right now, and Calipari wants to rely on freshmen, and Izzo is admirable as it is. He just wants to rely on his homegrown talent, but sometimes the homegrown stuff just doesn't
sure.
always work out.
Yeah, you probably have to be maybe if I can offer a word of advice to somebody who obviously knows what they're doing and I don't know what they're doing, maybe a little more selective with the long-term players for your program. And you're right, maybe look towards the look towards the transfer portal a lot more aggressively. My standout player, and it tastes like a bar of soap in my mouth, but I'm just gonna say Zach Edey. I mean,
Yeah.
I there's something about him that drives me up a wall. It doesn't help that he plays for Purdue, but I mean, there's no other word than dominant so far this season and in the tournament. I know they've yet to really hit the meat of the tournament talent pool. I understand that, so we've yet to see, but regardless, I believe he's put up just shy of 60 points in 2 games, and neither game was particularly close. I'm not even sure that he played for much of the last game. I don't know. I don't know that
He's
anyone's been quite as
amazing.
dominant. Yeah, and it's not even just the points scored; it's the amount of space that he covers on the court with
Yeah,
I mean, it's just shut down. Whether it's on the
got to
offense
double
or on the
team him.
defense, he's accounting for. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of crazy. We'll see if it continues, but for now, he's my guy through it. I don't love it. It sucks a little bit to say, but it was something to see. I'll tell you what. Um,
He's an amazing guardrail,
we'll move.
like your team. Like he
That's
raises your
it's true.
floor so much that like
Hmm.
it just allows you to play a C plus game against like a top 25 opponent and still be in the game.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like having training wheels on your bike, right? Like he's gonna keep you afloat. You could run into something, but you won't fall. Um, that was such a horrible analogy. Let's cut that out. Um, move moving along. At this point, we're through a couple rounds here. Who do we have winning it all? Have we changed our predictions? Are any of our predictions now no longer in the tournament? Uh, Zane, we'll run it to you first.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I guess I hyped him up earlier. I think it's still UNC, still my favorite. They're gonna play Alabama coming up. I'm not too worried about that. Alabama cannot play defense at all. Alabama's probably going to give up 100 points in this game, and I think UNC's defense is good enough to hold them to 80, something like that. So I think they'll keep rolling. I shouldn't say keep rolling for playing the roll tide, but I'm still got
Spain
UNC.
doesn't give a piss about the tide.
Yeah, no, I still got UNC. They're my. Nah, that's. I hate picking chalk in the tournament, but taking them one seed.
All right, Danny, what are we seeing? Are we sticking with the Illini?
Like to. I mean that they have the best offense in the country. I would hope they can keep the momentum rolling, but so does UConn. UConn is the number two offense in the country, right behind Illinois, and they have a much better defense than Illinois. And then Iowa State has the number one defense in the country, which happens to be again much better than Illinois. So they have a tough road to get there. Um, if not Illinois, I'm going Houston. Watching them absolutely rally with two of their top three players. They fouled out against Texas A&M in the game on Sunday night, and they absolutely rallied and just destroyed Texas A&M in overtime, despite Texas A&M getting some lucky shots to force OT. I think that's my new pick. Just watching them just absolutely dominated in the Big 12, and then also just being elite, even if the calls aren't going their way in the tournament so far. Them still finding a way to win. So UConn, great team, but like in the past 2 years, I don't think they've been in a close game with a team, which is really good. But one of these times they're gonna have a close game, and I just haven't seen them in a close game yet to have them prove to me that they can um, win that game and get it to the other side.
Yeah, that seems fair. I think it's it's interesting to see the teams that are left and realize the gauntlet they all have to get through yet. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna roll with my pick here in Creighton from the jump. Um, they're gonna be battle tested if they get there. At that point, they will have gone through quite the ringer. They just beat Oregon, who we talked about being a sneaky good team. And then they'd have to get through what, Tennessee, and then the winner of Purdue Gonzaga. Whoever comes out of that's obviously a scary team. If Gonzaga manages to beat Purdue, we know Gonzaga's nothing to sneeze at. Well, we kind of already know that, but considering the shellacking they laid on, was it Kansas? It would be. I mean, that is to me that might be the toughest part of the bracket. That's pretty crazy to see all those teams right there. But yeah, I'm going to run with Creighton. I think really Tennessee is absolutely terrifying. But if they get through Tennessee, I kind of trust them to weather the storm beyond that. So I'll roll with them. I like the pick. It makes me feel good to root for a team I don't think I've ever rooted for before. So hey,
it's
we'll stick to our
chalky
guns.
year. I feel like I know there were some upsets, but overall it feels like a pretty chalky year. Like I'm not like I obviously NC State. being in the Sweet 16, that quote unquote Cinderella. Clemson is a little bit of a surprise, but they were 32 in Ken Palm, so they're not crazy off, and they were ranked a few times this year. So it's not in San Diego State. They were in the national championship game last year. So I mean, not a lot of craziness going on. So outside of once you get to the Sweet 16 Elite Eight, but it's kind of nice seeing the cream rise to the top.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's interesting to watch teams that you expect to win finally do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's continue here. Let's run down. Let's just talk about Indianapolis. Honestly, what did you fellas think? I mean, I know being living 2 hours north, I've got friends that live in Indy, and I've visited a handful of times. Anyways, never for a sporting event, but what were your thoughts, fellas?
Perfect. I think it's a perfect place to host a sporting event, especially a tournament, without centrally located the stadium is, and then the fact that the city is small enough where that event is the event. Chicago's a great city. I love it. But, if they're hosting tournament games, it's just like a side thing that's happening in the city, and not many people will be knowing about it. But like if something comes to Indianapolis, everybody knows about it. Big Ten tournaments, March Madness games, Final Four, or Frozen Four, wherever. Like everybody knows about it in Indianapolis, and all the bars around there, restaurants are like easy walking distance. Same with the hotels. I think it's just a perfect place to be for sporting events.
Yeah, I enjoyed the city. Very, very walkable, very nice. Again, just like Danny said, stadium's in a great place. Wingstop, walkable distance, for us, which was really great. Yeah, first time in Indy, and it's not, there's not a lot of high rises, so you can kind of see a lot. You can kind of see the whole picture of the city. You're not just staring at one building that's, 50, 60 stories high, like in Chicago. So yeah, definitely enjoyed Indy. Hopefully we can go back. Maybe Monster Jam at Lucas Oil or something else out in Indy. I think would be a great time.
Yeah, I I agree. Honestly, I mean, like I said, I've been to Indy a few times, but never for a sporting event. First time at Gainbridge. Well, that's not entirely true. I've been for Supercross before, but um, that was at Lucas Oil, which Lucas Oil is, I think, fantastic for a sporting event like venue as well. And I've heard concerts, but I've never gone. But Gamebridge was gorgeous. I was very impressed with that. I didn't really know
Yeah.
what to expect, to be honest. They had like a little outdoor court. The boys got up some shots, proved that we were all absolutely packing and just carrying these clips on us. It was crazy. You guys, I wish you could have seen it.
Oh, we did film
Can't
it. It's
drink.
up on the page.
Oh, that's true. Wish you could have seen all of it though, you know.
Sure.
But it was quite something, and it is nice that there aren't these high rises. It feels like you can see, where you're gonna go. Helps me at
Hmm.
least navigate a little bit. Um, the bar scene was quite something. We definitely experienced that, and I think we can all use a break from that too. Afterwards, the amount of uncrustables that I think we might have decimated Indianapolis's uncrustable supply. To be honest with you, um, we we tore through. We were powering through boxes of Uncrustables like it was our jobs. But yeah, I loved it. I hope we do get to go back, whether it be for Monster Jam or the tournament again, or Colts or whatever, whatever have you, Pacers. I mean, there's several sports teams in town. Um, I liked it a lot. Yeah, the walkability of it was nice.
Yeah.
I know
Oh,
I
yeah.
had a couple early mornings with our buddy Ben, who was with us, and we're both coffee guys. So we get up in the morning and walk. Well, one morning we pretty much walked what was basically the entirety of main area of downtown and grabbed some coffee. And I wore the absolute wrong shoes. My feet are all tore up from the floor up, but it's all right. Um, yeah, boys, I'm pretty hyped to see where this tourney goes.
Oh, best time. It's literally the best time of year.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all we've got. How is everybody? How did everybody enjoy their not drinks?
Oh yeah. I mean, water was the way to go. 100%.
Well, I needed the caffeine over here, but yeah, no alcohol for this guy for the foreseeable future. But all right, it was awesome to talk to you guys again, and this is us signing off.